Well, everybody, welcome to another glorious Sunday. I was driving here today from St. Andrew's Episcopal Church, and I was thinking about, what a glorious day it is out there. I was surprised it's warmer than I thought it was going to be, which was nice. But I want to welcome everybody here, and I want to thank, our volunteers who helped make this possible. And next, I would like to welcome up Nora Grace to call in the ancestors and to honor our First Peoples. If you want, whichever.
Actually, let's do this. All right, let's do the microphone dance. All right. Let's take a deep breath and remember that we live here now. And sometimes we say things like, this land used to belong to the Duwamish people, but actually the land has always belonged to itself. But the Duwamish people recognize that. And they recognize that the land did not belong to them. They recognize that they were put here by the Creator to be caretakers of this land. And yet, in the hubris, other humans from other places have come and colonized and pushed them away and took away their rights. And even today, they are trying to get their basic rights of recognition met. And so we honor and we take into our hearts both this land and perhaps the people that this land grieves for. We send out a prayer that the Duwamish and other indigenous cultures be able to get back to their way of living, at least to some extent. So take a moment to take a breath and just remember the peoples. And I also want to call in the ancestors who came before us. And we all have ancestors who were heroes and heroines. We all have ancestors who maybe weren't such great people either. But they are all still out there. And they dreamed us into being. And they are all wishing for the best for us. And they are here with us right now. We are calling you in, ancestors, because you are asking us to stand in the lineage and be our best selves for the future ones. So thank you, ancestors, for being with us today.
Thank you, Nora Grace. And an important part of our services has always been honoring the divine feminine. And along those lines, we generally have one of the members of the congregation say a prayer, read a poem, or something along those lines that helps to honor the divine feminine. And today, Vicki has been kind enough to provide this service for us.
Good morning. I'm particularly happy to be reading something to honor the Divine Feminine because yesterday, as you know, was International Women's Day and also my daughter's birthday, but that's just a side note. Anyway, what I'm going to read is a Pawnee prayer. So Nora Grace just talked about land acknowledgement. The Pawnee are not from this area, but I just wanted to point out that they're from the Plains area. But here we go. Earth, our mother, breathe forth life, all night sleeping. Now awaking in the east, now see the dawn. Earth, our mother, breathe and waken. Leaves are stirring, all things moving, new day coming, life renewing. Eagle soaring, see the morning, see the new mysterious morning, something marvelous and sacred, though it happens every day. Dawn, the child of God and darkness. Thank you.
I'm getting good at that with that thing. Okay, once again, welcome. And this is a part, and this is particularly for those out there in live streaming land. We are a voluntary organization. What I mean by that is nobody here gets paid, and yet the work still manages to get done. But the way the work gets done and the way the lights keep on, and the way, is everybody in this room warm? I mean, I'm not over so, but you're all warm? Good. That also happens because, that does not happen by miracles. That happens, by our contributions and by, what we give to keep things going. For those of you, as I said, out there in live streaming land and so forth, there are several ways that you can donate. One of which is a QR code, which we have, but also at the website is a place the ICS website is a place to donate. And your funds and your donations are greatly appreciated. So also is the donation of time. And many folks here, volunteer their time, as well as monies, to keeping this place going. And if any of you out there think that you might have some way to contribute like that, please speak up. Let us know. Particularly let Sally Jo know, let Jamal know, you're pointing. Okay, and then let Vicki know she has a clipboard. If you can reach across the web and magically sign her clipboard, that would be great. But if not, you can go back to that method that I mentioned before of emailing. And let us know. Tons of stuff, some of stuff you could actually do from home that would help us. So please don't be shy. If you think you can help in some way, speak right up. So I wanted to talk a little bit about upcoming gatherings. Thank you. I couldn't do this job without Joey. None of us could. But you're right, upcoming gatherings. This is kind of, good that we're bringing this up right after we talk about volunteering and stuff, because this is a way that many of us volunteer. There are several upcoming gatherings here. There are several things that happen weekly. And I almost never get them right, but I'm going to try anyways, and people can correct me. On Monday evenings, we have the Mevlevi order does a dhikr here. For those of you who don't know what a dhikr is an Arabic word, and it means remembrance. And dhikr is chanting the names and attributes of God. And it is a wonderful service. Those of you who are not familiar with Sufism in general, and Mevlevi in particular, please come. Trust me, you would be felt more than welcome. On Tuesdays, we do is the Course in Miracles on Tuesday? Okay, the Course in Miracles happens here on Tuesday evenings. I believe this is 7 p.m., right? Right. Thank you. First and third Tuesdays are here. Second and fourth Tuesdays are online. By the way, anything that I'm telling you is also on the website. So, avail yourself of that and check it out. Wednesday night, we have a study circle for the Masnavi. The Masnavi was a book written by Jalaluddin Rumi. It's often called the Persian Quran. And it is wonderful. It has gems in it that you wouldn't believe. And it's like the Quran. One thing that it has is every time you read it, it seems like someone's thrown new verses in that weren't there before. At least that's been my experience. But if you have a bent that way, if you have a desire, it's a wonderful class. Once again, I believe it is on. Is it in person? I believe it's just online. Totally on Zoom, yes. And once again, if you go to the website, you can find the links to it. Thursday night is Sitting in Silence. For those of you who've never tried this, avail yourself of it. It is a wonderful practice, a practice of meditation. And, I once heard someone say to me that the difference between prayer and meditation is prayer is when you talk to God and meditation is when he talks back. So come if you can. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. What do we have going on Friday evenings? I'm sorry. Oh, yes, thank you, Mike. How could I forget that? We have prayers in the Islamic tradition. This is at 1:30, and it is online. We used to do it here in person as well. Inshallah, we'll someday again. But we discovered, particularly over COVID, that our community has gotten so far-flung. We have people who attend this from as far away as Washington, D.C. So, if you, once again, get online to the website, and you can, find ways to connect with it. And it's a beautiful service. Saturdays, a variety of things happen. I'll make a plug for something that happened yesterday and will be happening every second Saturday of the month. So the next one will be in April. And that is a study circle that we're doing on faith and justice. The first one was yesterday, and what we're doing is we're taking different writings, not necessarily scriptures, but writings from people of various faith traditions, and reading them and discussing them. Yesterday we had a very spirited and lively and informative discussion on a piece that Gandhi wrote regarding the untouchables in India, and we kind of equated that to who are our untouchables in society today, and how do we respond. It was a wonderful class. Next month, we will be doing things from the Buddhist tradition, particularly from a movement called Engaged Buddhism. And so that's one of the things. Are there other things that happen on Saturdays? Could people? Yes.
This coming Saturday will be Roots of Joy Wild Church. It is going to happen at Carkeek Park, 10 a.m. Just come and enjoy. We'll spend some time in nature. We'll spend some time talking about our experiences.
Okay, anything else? Yes. Go on. And then I'm going to pass this on to you, Sally Jo.
Good morning. So for the month of March, at least for the next 2 Saturdays, we are meeting here from 10 till 2, and we're doing spring cleaning. So we had a nice group yesterday. We got a lot done, and we invite you to join us for the next 2 Saturdays. Really appreciate everyone's help yesterday. Thank you very much. And then at the very end of the month, the last Sunday, March 30th, we will be having the members retreat here at Interfaith Community Sanctuary. It will be following our regular Sunday service, so should be easy to, we wanted to do it that way so that it would be easy for folks to come and not have to come on a separate day. We've got activities planned. We've got a volunteer section in there to benefit Camp Aaron, which is a hospice organization. If you have questions about that, you can chat with me. And I've sent out a couple of emails. I'll send out another reminder. We are looking for RSVPs because we are providing lunch, and there will be materials for the volunteer piece, and we need to have enough supplies for everyone that's attending. So we look forward to seeing you at the retreat. George, is there anything else you want to add about the retreat? Good? Okay. March 30th.
It's a Sunday, yeah, and that's a membership retreat, so members are getting notices about this. If you're not a member or you haven't received the notice, which gives you a chance to RSVP, come see me, and it may be that you've updated your email address since you became a member, or if you would like to become a member, if you're fairly new to the community, and we have a membership, very easy membership process of talking to a minister and learning about what membership entails, and so you can do that at any time as well. I'm Sally Jo, and you can find me after the service. Also, on the Thursday, the 27th of March, pretty sure, I better check that it's not the 26th. I think it's Thursday, the 27th of March, the Thursday before the last Sunday. We are having a special celebration here. Is that right? Okay. A special celebration called Laylatul Qadr, or the Night of Destiny. This is part of the month of Ramadan, which is celebrated by the Muslim community all over the world. And it's the night designated for the time when the Prophet Muhammad first began receiving revelation of the Holy Quran in his cave in Arabia, where he was meditating. And Imam Jamal Rahman and Bahia Ann Holmes Redding will be presenting a program here in the sanctuary where they review and go over the history of that night and the spiritual significance of it. There's periods of meditation, there's periods of chanting, and then after the service, we break fast. Those who are fasting for Ramadan, from sunup to sundown, we break our fast at around 7:30, and we do our Islamic prayers. All are invited. This is not anything exclusively for Muslims. Even if you haven't been fasting, that's okay. We'll give you a date and water, and you can still enjoy breaking your fast from whenever you last ate. And then we go downstairs, and that'll be after the meditation circle will be over. That Thursday, the meditation group, George has offered to have their meditation downstairs in the fellowship hall so we can meet up here. And we promise it's a quiet service. We don't get raucous up here, I don't think. We don't usually dance up here. But anyway, when we finish, we'll go downstairs, and all are invited to join us. And your group should join us for iftar, for dinner. We have a potluck dinner, and we enjoy each other's company. And after that, if people hang around still and have time, we have more zikr, more remembrance of God and chanting, and then do one more evening prayer. So it's a lovely evening. It starts, the doors open at 6:15. We start the service at 6:30. It's over by 7:30, and we go on from there to enjoy the rest of the evening. All are invited, and it's a fun time to meet Muslims in the area. You'll meet Muslims that maybe don't normally always come to our services, but who are involved in our Friday prayer group or in the Muslim community who like to celebrate this beautiful experience. So that's the special event for this month. Anyone else have special events? Or okay.
Okay, everybody. It's time to talk a little bit about what's going on specifically today. And this is kind of a twofold thing. One, I want to talk a little bit about our discernment. And every year, the sanctuary picks an overall topic to discern on. And then we divide it up by 12 into different aspects of that topic, of that discernment. And this year, our discernment is on sanctuary, on what sanctuary means. It's interesting. Someone had said, we call ourselves the Interfaith Community Sanctuary. We don't call ourselves the church, the temple, the mosque. We call ourselves the sanctuary. What does that mean? And what are the various different aspects of sanctuary? Of course, there's the obvious one that we want this place to be, and we hope we work towards this place being a safe haven, for all. But this particular, this particular month, we're concentrating on, I'm not really sure whether it's sanctuary as transformation or transformation as sanctuary. So I'm going to say, hey, it's both. And that's kind of what we're looking at here. And it's interesting because we could not have picked a better year to do this, particularly with where transformation is falling in this year. We have several things going on this month that, to me at least, deal with transformation. For one thing, it's Lent, in the Christian tradition. And Lent is they say it's the 40 days and 40 nights prior to the resurrection. That's true and untrue. It's actually 46 days. And the reason why is because those Sundays in between, those are like past days. Sunday's considered like a little Easter, so it's not technically part of Lent. So all that stuff you're giving up for Lent, when I was a kid, I always tried to talk my mom into letting me give up homework for Lent, but it never happened. And anyway, but all that stuff, you get a free pass on it on Sunday. Sunday is not a day where you keep fasts in the Christian tradition. So you have Lent, which is a form of transformation. It is a time of introspection, a time of waiting for renewal and praying for renewal. Now, we also, at the same time this year, Ramadan has fallen. At the same time during this year. And Ramadan is also a time of transformation. Ramadan, of course, was revealed in the Quran as something that Muslims are, supposed to do. Those who are medically able to do it are supposed to fast from sunrise to sunset, and not eat or drink anything. There's a couple other things you're not supposed to do during that time. But in any event, it's a time that it actually goes back to the prophet who every month, once a year, for this month, would go off to the mountains outside of Mecca, to Mount Hira, and would fast and pray and meditate. And it was during that time that the angel Gabriel revealed the Quran to him, or the beginnings of the Quran, which, as Sally Jo pointed out, we're going to celebrate later this month. That's what Laylatul Qadr is. So you have that going on at the same time. It's funny. I was at Bet Olive Synagogue just this Friday, and the rabbi was teasing me. He's like, "You're doing Lent and Ramadan? Are you a glutton for punishment?" And I'm like, "Dude, no, man. It's a glorious time. If we could throw Yom Kippur in, I'd be dancing. It's a wonderful time. Avail yourself." Yes. It sure has. It's also, for those of you who don't know, we're coming on to the fast time for the Baha'is as well, the month of Allah. And it's pretty close to the same rules as in Islam, from sunrise to sunset. You're not supposed to eat or drink anything. And it's a time of prayer and a time of introspection and a time of salvation. And it's leading up to what is New Year's in both the Baha'i faith and in the Zoroastrian and traditional Iranian year, which is on the 21st. It's called Nowruz, which in Persian means new day. So we have all these things going on, all these opportunities to transform ourselves. And throughout this month, we will be celebrating this transformation, here at the sanctuary. And we will be exploring at how these transformations are a sanctuary for us and how we have a sanctuary that allows us to do these transformations. Now, the second Sunday of every month, and that's this Sunday, okay, is a time when we do the universal worship. The universal worship is a service that was created by Hazrat Inayat Khan at the turn of the last century, early days in the last century. And it is a tribute to the world religions. Generally speaking, there are 6 religions that are honored, no matter what universal worship you go to, no matter where you go, these 6 are going to be honored, but you're also allowed to throw in others, which we do. And for me, at least, this is my favorite Sunday of the month. Not just because, I'm up here doing this. That's not the favorite part of it, trust me. But the favorite part of it for me is the fact that this is the service where we truly honor all the different faiths and traditions that walk through those doors. Given that, I want to start the service, and we will start it by having everybody rise, and we will say the invocation. Towards the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all of the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance.
To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing the Hindu religion. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing the Buddhist religion. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing the Zoroastrian religion. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing the Taoist religion. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing indigenous religions. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing the Jewish religion. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing the Christian religion. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing the Muslim religion. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing all those, whether known or unknown to the world, who have held aloft the light of truth amidst the darkness of human ignorance.
If I could ask everyone to rise as you are able for the reading of the first prayer. Praise be to thee, most supreme God, omnipotent, omnipresent, all-pervading, the only being. Take us in thy parental arms. Raise us from the denseness of the earth. Thy beauty do we worship. To thee do we give willing surrender. Most merciful and compassionate God, the idealized Lord of the whole humanity. Thee only do we worship, and towards thee alone do we aspire. Open our hearts towards thy beauty. Illuminate our souls with divine light. O thou, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, all-powerful creator, sustainer, judge and forgiver of our shortcomings. Lord God of the east and the west, of the worlds above and below, and of the seen and unseen beings, pour upon us thy love and thy light. Give sustenance to our bodies, hearts, and souls. Use us for the purpose that thy wisdom chooses, and guide us in the path of thine own goodness. Draw us closer to thee every moment of our life, until in us be reflected thy grace, thy glory, thy wisdom, thy joy, and thy peace. Amen. Everyone will be seated.
From Hinduism, we read from the Yajurveda. The one who loves all intensely begins perceiving in all living beings a part of himself. He becomes a lover of all, a part and parcel of the universal joy. He flows with the stream of happiness and is enriched by each soul. We offer to the omniscient God our reverence, our homage, and our gratitude for the light of the divine wisdom.
It's interesting. The Yajurveda is one of the, as indeed all the Vedas, are amongst the oldest writings of Hinduism. They go like way back into antiquity. They were old when Moses was a teenager. So, but the thing that I wanted to point out with this writing in particular is the idea of love as a key to transformation. And also the idea, because, it says in here, that they were talking and it says, the one who loves intensely begins perceiving in all human beings a part of himself. And I think one of the first steps towards a transformation of self is to be able to look outside of yourself. It's the ability to basically realize that, the world does not necessarily revolve around you as an individual, that there's a whole bunch of us here, and also because I don't want to get too dualistic in this. Each of these people outside of us is also a part of us as we are a part of them. And all of us together are a part of God as God is a part of us. But that ability to look beyond that, little, kernel of ego, of self, is, to me, the doorstep of transformation.
From the Buddhist tradition. This is from the Nibbana Sutta. I have heard that on one occasion the Blessed One was staying near Savatthi at Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. And on that occasion the Blessed One was instructing, urging, rousing, and encouraging the monks with Dhamma talk concerned with unbinding. The monks, receptive, attentive, focusing their awareness, lending ear, listened to the Dhamma. Then, on realizing the significance of that, the Blessed One on that occasion exclaimed, "There is, monks, an unborn, unbecome, unmade, unfabricated. If there were not that unborn, unbecome, unmade, unfabricated, there would not be the case that escape from the born, become, made, fabricated would be discerned. But precisely because there is an unborn, unbecome, unmade, unfabricated, escape from the born, become, made, fabricated is discerned." We offer to the omniscient God our reverence, our homage, and our gratitude for the light of the divine compassion.
This is one of my absolute favorite verses from the Buddhist tradition. And it is for a variety of reasons. One of the special reasons that I have for it, I remember when I was a kid and I was in undergrad school, and I was taking a world religions class. And the class was done by a teacher who basically went at it from the point of view that every religion but his was really silly, and he was going to show you how silly it was. So you can bet I sat in the front row in that class. And he would always say, well, Buddhism is an atheistical religion. Buddhism is an atheistical religion. And I would always be, whoa, time out on the playing field. No, it's not. It's a non-dualistic religion, but they're all non-dualistic religions. I'll let you in on that secret. And to me, what this showed was, no, Buddhism does believe in something beyond us, beyond the material world, that there's something out there, okay? It's unborn, it's unnamed. It's not something that you can grab or hold in your hand or say, this is it, or that is it, It's there, and once again, going back to like with the Yajurveda, when you can realize that and realize that not only is it there, but that you're a part of it, then you're on that doorstep to transformation. In Baha'i scriptures, there's a book called Some Answered Questions, and it's basically it was a series of questions put to Abdul Baha, who's the son of the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith, Baha'u'llah. And one of the questions that they asked him was, when we were talking about the prophets, was the lady who was asking the questions asked, well, what about Buddha and Confucius? And I won't get into the Confucius part of it now, but the Buddha part, he says, no, Buddha was a manifestation of God, a prophet, and Buddha definitely taught that there was a God. And that kind of got lost and forgotten and misinterpreted over the years. But that's why I love this verse, because it brings us right back to that. And it brings us right back to that. Once we can identify that that is there and that we're a part of it, we're on that doorstep to transformation. We're on that opening to, to the infinite. And so to me, it's a lovely verse. I also wanted to bring up the fact that you may have heard a couple words in here that sound like they're being mispronounced, and they're not. And that is Dhamma and Sutta. We often hear the words Dharma and Sutra, which are the Sanskrit words. But Buddha didn't speak Sanskrit. Buddha spoke a language called Pali. And most Buddhist scriptures were originally written in Pali. They're called the Pali Canon. And in those, and in Pali, the words are Dhamma and Sutta. So when you see those, no, they haven't been misprinted, no one's mispronouncing them. We're talking a different language. But I want to go back to transformation now. That was just a little bit of an aside. And just to point out the fact, once again, that it is in realizing the immensity of this that is out there and that you are part of that immensity is the beginning of transformation.
From the Zoroastrian tradition from the Gathas, they shall themselves progress from good to greater good, who instruct us concerning the straight paths of salvation in this life of the body and the mind, leading up to the worlds of reality in which the living God himself abides. And so the lover shall become one like thee, O Mazda, resplendent in holy wisdom. We offer to the omniscient God our reverence, our homage, and our gratitude for the light of the divine purity.
Every month, 2 weeks before we do the universal worship, those of us who are chirags, in other words, folks who were ordained to do the universal worship, get together to discuss the writings that we're going to use for that theme. And generally, we take turns, each month a different one of us takes, the helm in doing this. Okay, this month it was me. And when I and others are picking those writings, there's one thing that we all hold in common, and that is, what in the heck are we going to do for Zoroastrianism? The scriptures of Zoroastrianism are rather old. We don't have a lot of them. And so what we end up doing is we look, we panic, and then Michael finds something. He thinks eventually that he may move away from the area and that he will be beyond this. And I got news for him. I will track him down and hound him like a dog to get Zoroastrian quotes. But what I love about this particular quote is it also goes into the fact that throughout the history of humanity, we have had teachers, people who point the way for us. And as it says here, in this quote, they shall themselves progress, I'm kind of paraphrasing because my eyesight's bad, from good to greater good, who instruct us concerning the straight paths. So also part of transformation for us is looking at our teachers, looking at our prophets and messengers, our manifestations of God. Those who have received an insight from the divine that they can then share with us to help us on our way towards, our own transformation. And this is to me, really pointed out clearly in this, in these verses from the Yasna, and that that we need to follow these people. And for me, at least, I've always found Zoroaster, which, by the way, is a mispronunciation of a mispronunciation. Zoroaster is the Latin mispronunciation of the Greek Zarathustra, which is a mispronunciation of the Persian Zardusht. But that's okay. I'm fond of saying too that these are different languages. I'm fond of saying that every day, 5 times a day, somewhere in the world, someone is mispronouncing Arabic. So, but the point being that in this case here, the important thing is looking at our teachers, looking at the examples of those who have gone before us, looking at the example of those who have basically received and embodied that spark of the divine, that God intoxication, as signposts pointing us towards transformation.
From the Taoist tradition, we read from the Zhuangzi. Once I, Zhuangzi, dreamed that I became a butterfly, happy with myself and doing as I pleased. I forgot that I was Zhuangzi. Suddenly I woke up and I was Zhuangzi again. I did not know whether Zhuangzi had been dreaming that he was a butterfly or whether a butterfly had been dreaming that it was Zhuangzi. There must be a difference between the two. This is what I call transformation of things. We offer to the omniscient God our reverence, our homage, and our gratitude for the light of the divine way.
This is it's a pretty famous piece of Taoist scripture. And it was kind of I love the Tao Te Ching, but it was kind of nice to find something from the tradition outside of the Tao Te Ching. And one of the things that I think that Zhuangzi was trying to say here in his dream was, he's asking the question, am I a butterfly dreaming I'm a man, or am I a man dreaming I'm a butterfly? To which the answer is really yes. Once again, we get into the interconnectedness of being. We get into the concept that we are all part of that one. Each of us, all the butterflies, the occasional moth, God, we're all part of that one. And that's something that I think Zhuangzi is really trying to point out to us in his dream. Zhuangzi was an interesting character. He was, in many ways, I would call him the Mullah Nasruddin of Chinese religion. He taught a lot through humor, through, joking, through pointing out almost Zen-like koans of things that would shock you into realizations. He was also virulently anti-legalistic. And so he really didn't get along with his Confucianist brethren all that well. But that's okay. They didn't get along with him either. So, but in any event, I think where we look at transformation here, we're looking at that realization that, trying to, pick through that koan, as it were, that, yeah, you're a butterfly. And yeah, a butterfly is you, The dream is expressing a part of reality that you don't necessarily see in your waking state. So if I'm going to leave you with any message here on your road to transformation, pay attention to your dreams.
A reading from the indigenous tradition, Black Elk Speaks. As I looked around, I saw that every created thing had a thread of smoke or light going from it. The voice whispered, "This cord that every created thing has is what connects it to the Creator. Without this cord, it would not exist." As I watched, I saw all these threads coming from everything, went to the center of the circle where the four directions were one place, the center of the cross. I saw that all these threads were tied together or joined here at this spot. The voice spoke again. "This is the center of the universe, the place where all things join together and all things become one. The place where everything begins and ends. The place inside everything created." That's when I understood that all of creation, the seen and the unseen, were all related. The voice spoke one last time. "Yes, now you know the center of the universe." We offer to the omniscient God our reverence, our homage, and our gratitude for the light of the divine connection.
Yeah, what he said. In many of the indigenous traditions, and not just Native American, but indigenous traditions from Africa, from Asia, from Australia, there is a discipline of practice that they call by different names, but the name that I'll choose is the name that the Plains Indians use, which is a vision quest. And what Black Elk is relating here was a vision quest that he was on. Now, folks don't realize this when they're reading the Black Elk Speaks. It's a wonderful book, and if you haven't read it, I suggest you do. That he was maybe 14 when he had this vision quest. You know, later on in life, as an adult, he actually converted to Roman Catholicism. And I would have loved to have heard the conversations between him and the Jesuit missionaries who converted him. But you see here is you know, at least what I see as far as transformation is the idea of, you know, using different practices, using different disciplines, in his case, the vision quest. In our case, whatever name we put to it, boils down to the same thing. And as you go along with it, that once again, that realization, that transformation of becoming one with the eternal, you know, of that, you know, essential unity of all that is. In Arabic, they call it wahad al-wujud, you know, the unity or oneness of being. And you know, and you see a prime example of it here in Black Elk's talk and what Black Elk saw. Now, later on, he comes back to the tribe, and, you know, as was the custom among the Lakota and many of the Plains Indians, he then got together with the elders and developed his vision into a ceremony to be able to share it with the rest of the people. And, you know, and you come to that later in the book, but the message I'd like to leave you with, you know, this particular writing is that idea that once again we're seeing, you know, this oneness, this unborn, uncreated, unknown that is a part of us and that we are a part of.
A reading from the Jewish tradition, Isaiah. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. We offer to the omniscient God our reverence, our homage, and our gratitude for the light of the divine covenant.
To me, Isaiah he's saying pretty much the same thing that we saw in the beginning in the Ayurveda. The idea of in looking beyond yourself, and by yourself in this case, I mean that, little ego thing that somehow makes us think that we are different than others, that trick of the nervous system, as it were. That if you get beyond that and you rely, you can look outward, that's where that transformation comes from, that when you look beyond to the Lord, you become a part of the Lord. In Judaism, they talk about, particularly in Kabbalah, which is a Jewish form of mysticism, there's the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov. And those are the Yetzer Hara is the inclination towards wickedness. And the Yetzer Tov is the inclination towards goodness. And people think that, of course, we go for the Yetzer Tov every time, right? That's where we're going, right? Well, that's not true. What we're actually looking for, according to the rabbis, and you'll find this in a book of Kabbalistic mysticism called the Tanya, we're looking to become the Bayoni, which is, I guess the best way to translate in English is the in-betweeners. Those who stand in between those two inclinations. Because when you look at them, they're both really, in many ways, the same inclination. Okay, and when you can realize that, when you can come to that transformation, Jung called it looking at our shadow self. And that's also an important part of our transformation. And Isaiah here, I think, is saying to us, when we can look to the Lord, look to that which is beyond us, we soar like eagles. In other words, we can look above it all and see where all of, the transformation comes when we see where all of that fits in. Kind of like Black Elk did, in the last writing that we studied. And, I think a big thing for me is showing how all of these writings tie together, because I think they do. And what we're seeing here in this particular verse of the Tanakh is that idea that when you can look at that beyond yourself and you can soar like eagles and you can soar above it, you can develop a transformation in which you come to understand how everything in the world is, in existence, is one. So in Hebrew, the word olam means both the world and it means the entire universe and creation. So they really don't see a difference when they're looking at that in Hebrew. And I think that's part of what Isaiah was getting at here. We can soar with the eagles, we can move above this, and then we can look and see all of it as a oneness. Go ahead.
A reading from the Christian tradition, Romans. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. We offer to the omniscient God our reverence, our homage, and our gratitude for the light of the divine self-sacrifice.
You'll note that this is the only reading we chose that actually has the word transformed in it. I need to say here, I love Paul. I know a lot of people give Paul a bad rap. And there's a reason for that. There are things in the supposed letters of Paul that sound misogynist, that sound anti-gay, and so forth. But I want to let you know something, that scholars now know that of the 13 letters attributed to Paul, we're fairly certain he wrote 7 of them. 3 of them we're not too sure, and 3 of them we're pretty much positive he didn't write, he couldn't have. Okay, and a lot of the negative stuff that you see is in those 6 letters. There's a couple things in 1 Corinthians that seem negative, and we know that that's a letter that he wrote, but we also know there were things that people added to it, and a lot of that negativity stuff was stuff that people added. We know this by the form of Greek that was used, basically, and often by the fact that they're naming offices of the church that didn't exist in Paul's time. But be that as it may, Romans we know Paul wrote. And when Paul wrote Romans, he was writing to a church in trouble. What had happened was, just prior to Paul writing this letter, the Emperor Claudius had died. Now, Claudius had put an edict out banishing all Jews from Rome. And there was a rule in Roman law at the time that when an emperor dies, his edicts die with him. So now we have a new emperor, Nero, okay? And he hadn't really shown his true colors yet, or his predilection towards playing the violin. But with the coming of Nero, this edict had ended, and suddenly Jews started returning to Rome. And among those, Jewish Christians. Remember, this is a time where there were still Jewish Christians and there were Gentile Christians. And the deal that Paul and James in Jerusalem had worked out was that Christians of Jewish descent were still responsible for keeping the entire 613 laws as revealed in the Torah. Jews of the Gentile persuasion will say, only had to keep the 7 Noachic laws. So they didn't have to keep kosher, they didn't have to be circumcised, and there were several other laws that they just did not have to keep, okay? But the problem is that the memo didn't get out to everybody. So suddenly, Jewish Christians are coming back, and they're seeing what the Gentile Christians are doing, and they're going, well, wait a minute, you're doing that wrong. And the Gentile Christians, we've always done it this way. So they went to Paul to be their arbiter. And Paul writes this wonderful letter in which he's explaining all of this to all of the Christians and telling them, listen, you're all one body in Christ. Okay, and at this point, what you need to be looking at is, yes, those of you of Jewish descent, you need to keep those laws. He said, I'm a Jew, I keep those laws. But our Gentile brethren don't, and we don't need to put that as a stumbling block. But we need to be looking at it instead, for all of us, is the transformative power of Christ. The transformative power of the prophet, of the manifestation. That's what we need to be looking at. When I say the transformative power of Christ, I'm not just speaking of Jesus of Nazareth. I'm also speaking of Muhammad, of Moses, of Buddha, the transformative power of these God-intoxicated beings to help us. And Paul is telling his congregation in Rome at this point, listen, you don't need to be worried about the physicality. Am I doing this? Am I eating that? Am I not eating this? Who am I eating with? Those types of things. What you need to be looking at instead is the soul, the mind. And he's saying, and that is your transformation. He goes, this is how you are all transformed into one spiritual, ethereal body in Christ.
A reading from the Islamic tradition, Sahih Bukhari Hadith. Ibn Hurahay relates that the Prophet was overheard to remark when returning to Medina Ram, the Battle of Badr, we are leaving the lesser jihad and returning to the greater jihad. When asked what he meant, he replied that the greater jihad was the battle against our own egos. We offer to the omniscient God our reverence, our homage, and our gratitude for the light of the divine unity.
This is one of my favorite hadiths. And you'll find it in several collections of in Islam. Now, in Sunni Islam, there are 4 major collections that pretty much everybody accepts. And this is in 2 of them, Sahih Bukhari, it's mentioned there, and also in one called Sahih Muslim. And to me, it's an interesting point. Before we get into transformation, which I think is the key point in here, to me, one of the points that this is making out is that jihad was never meant to just mean holy war in the sense of, combat. I mean, it can be that. It can be, because, Muhammad lifted the sword against injustice. So I would never be one to say that, Muhammad never taught that we should fight. He taught in specific places and times it was appropriate. He also laid down very strict rules of engagement. But jihad goes beyond that, because the word jihad doesn't mean war in Arabic, holy or otherwise. Okay, the word for war in Arabic is harb. Jihad means struggle. And that most important struggle, as the prophet points out, is against your own ego. It is against the things that make you separate. It is against the things that make you treat others as the other. That make you treat some people as outcasts and some people as part of the, inner sanctum, as it were. Okay, the realization of that, the combating of your ego, which we need to do every day, and we hopefully do every day in various forms, combating the racism within ourselves, combating the sexism within ourselves, combating the classism and the ageism within ourselves. Okay, these are things that lead us towards confronting that ego and transforming ourselves, into, well, I want to say egoless beings, but what I really mean by that is transform us into the realization that there is no separation between us. You know, that nothing separates us from each other. Or should. Now, that being said, as you've noticed, I've been making comments after each of the scriptures that were written. There's a very important reason for this, and that is that it was my turn. But what I want to do is I also want to allow just a little bit of time here to see if my colleagues have anything that they want to add to any of the writings or any thoughts that they have about, you know, what has been said or written.
Yeah, I'll speak for a moment. Thank you. The thing that comes up for me here, especially in connection with our theme last month of finding a sanctuary for the divine, there's and how it relates to transformation. You know, we talk about God as the creator a lot, you know, and it's hard using language, obviously, because when we say God is the creator, we make God into not just a person, which is, you know, debatable, but also kind of a thing that creates another thing. And we could also look at the creation of the world as a process and think of God as being that process, being that spark of creativity. And maybe that's a lesser mistake, because God is beyond all of these things. But if we think of the Creator as a process, then we can look at our life and see, where does creativity happen in our lives? And where is that process of creation alive for us? Because that is the place where our life is a sanctuary for the divine. That's where the world is being created through us. And what really came up for me in this was, you know, there's they keep referencing being with the Creator, being within the center of the world, being in that place where all things come from, and therefore all things are related. And this transformation of things, you know, as Trung says, is happening in that place, in that locus of creation, that process of creation in every moment. And one of the ways we connect with that, which is brought up in both the Hindu and the Zoroastrian scriptures, is through love. If we love that place of creation, if we love that place of creativity in our lives, then we connect with it in a very different way, in a way that is that makes us part of the process. Thanks.
Thank you. So, Michael, I love that that idea of this is a process, you know, and what you this thing is here. Never mind. And what that brought up for me actually was, you know, we often think of, and many of these scriptures point to ways of transformation, and they almost seem like a once-in-a-lifetime event. You know, some of these are talking about, you know, what did the Black Elk Speaks go through?
A vision quest.
Yeah, a vision quest, like something really, you know, formal and really a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing. Well, you know, if we think of ourselves and we think of the Creator as a process, and we also know the idea, right, that change is ever present. That's another name for transformation, is change, right? Change is always happening. We're always in process. It's not a once-in-a-lifetime event. It's happening every second of every day. And so we can elevate that idea of transformation, and we can take that into ourselves and realize that it's not just a once-in-a-lifetime thing. It's happening all the time. And it sort of brings up for me that every moment is holy if we choose to look at it that way. And we're a part of it. That's all I have to say.
I invite everyone to take a few moments of silence. If everyone, as you are able, would please rise for the reading of the second prayer. Most gracious Lord, Master, Messiah, and Savior of humanity, we greet thee with all humility. Thou art the first cause and the last effect. Right, Spirit of guidance, the Alpha and Omega. Thy light is in all forms, thy love in all beings, in a loving mother, in a kind father, in an innocent child, in a helpful friend, in an inspiring teacher. Allow us to recognize thee in all thy holy names and forms, as Sita and Ram, as Radha and Krishna, as Shiva and Shakti, as Buddha. Let us know thee as Abraham, as Solomon, as Zarathustra, as White Buffalo Calf Woman, as Moses, as Jesus and as Mary, as Muhammad, and in many other names and forms known and unknown to the world. We adore thy past. Thy presence deeply enlightens our being, and we look for thy blessing in the future. O Messenger, Christ, Nabi, the Rasul of God, thou whose heart constantly reaches upward, thou comest on earth with a message, as a dove from above when Dharma decays, and speaks the word that is put into thy mouth. As the light fills the crescent moon, let the stars of the divine light shining in thy heart be reflected in the hearts of thy devotees. May the message of God reach far and wide, illuminating and making the whole humanity as one single family in the parenthood of God. Amen. Everyone can be seated, please.
The reformer comes to plow the ground. The prophet comes to sow the seed, and the priest comes to reap the harvest. We offer to thee, omniscient God, our reverence, our homage, and our gratitude for the light of the divine truth.
Okay, this is, I always like to put you guys to work too. And we're going to do a short practice now. Practices are things that, help us in many ways on our journeys towards transformation. And the practice we're going to do today, you'd heard me mention earlier the word dhikr when I was talking about things that are coming up. And dhikrs are often, they are reciting like the names of God. And there is one name of God that came to mind for me during the thoughts about transformation and my meditations on that, and that is El Fatah. And El Fatah basically means like the opener. The one who opens us towards things. So we're going to do a very short dhikr of El Fatah. And while we're doing it, we're gonna repeat it 33 times. And don't worry, I can keep count. And while you're doing it, I would invite you to meditate on what that opener is for you. How that will open things up for you. So, okay. Without further ado, El Fatah, 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 El Fatah. If everyone would rise as they are able for the reading of the third prayer. O thou, who art the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the Lord of heaven and earth, open our hearts that we may hear thy voice, which constantly comes from within. Disclose to us thy divine light, which is hidden in our souls, that we may know and understand life better. Most merciful and compassionate God, give us thy goodness. Teach us thy loving forgiveness. Raise us above the distinctions and differences which divide us. Send us the peace of thy divine Spirit, and unite us all in thy perfect being. Amen. And now, we would like those of us Chirags to send a blessing out to you in the hopes that you will, receive it. May the blessings of God rest upon you. May God's peace abide with you. May God's presence illuminate your hearts, now and forever. Amen. Okay, and at this point, we can all sit down. Yeah, remember, sitting is the new sitting. This is the time at which we part company with our friends out in live streaming land. I want to thank you for attending, and I want to wish you a blessed coming week in the hopes of seeing you again here next week.